Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly Live. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, tonight, we're going to talk about the defense before we get to some of your comments. If you're out there, first and foremost, I want to thank you for joining me live on the program. I know it's a little bit different tonight in terms of the timing of everything. Day kind of got thrown off kilter with a little bit of a brief emergency that was taken care of, but everything got pushed back. So did this live stream, but we're here, and I've had a chance to assess the defensive film. I'm right now in the process of uploading the defensive first half film versus the Rams. And I tell you what, man, the defense is so frustrating because when you watch it, all the ingredients are there, you know? And the defense gets me excited when Chase Young is on the field. They're a different group. I've talked about this already, so I don't really need to rehash this. It's a different group when Chase Young is on the field. And you can feel it, you can sense it. Teams react differently to our defense when Chase Young is on the field versus when he's not. And at some point, they're going to have to take the training wheels off of him. And we can't do this whole, hey, we want to get Ryan Anderson or Ryan Kerrigan in thing. We got to stop that. You want to take somebody off the field? Take Montez Sweat off the field. Okay, take off one of the guys on the interior. If you want to keep Sweat and Young on and you want to put Ryan Kerrigan in, he's going to have to play inside or something. We can't keep taking Chase Young off the field. If he's not winded, if he's not tapping his helmet, tapping out, and he doesn't want out of the game, he needs to be on the field. He's too important to this defense. That being said, he changes drastically what we do on the defensive side of the football. Teams approach us differently. They have to alter some of the things that they want to do offensively because they have to make sure that they take care of 99. It just changes our defense drastically. But then I'll take it a step further. You watch this defense, and they're capable of getting stops. They're capable of getting teams into third and long. And then the thing that you see that's so frustrating is that we've got just two positions in particular. If you want to narrow it down to one in particular, you can. I tweeted this out. This isn't new news. I'm not giving you something you don't already know. The film just confirms it. And it makes it more frustrating because you see a defense that's capable, that's fully capable. And then you watch one or two guys F up, and it throws the entire defense into a tizzy. And you're like, what are you doing, man? Just do your damn job. So I talked about this on Twitter. During the game, I tweeted out, we've got a major problem at safety and linebacker right now. But I specifically targeted the linebackers during the game. And I said, our linebacking core sucks. And they're killing us. And that was just watching a TV copy, not having watched the film yet. You could see it on TV. You didn't need to watch the film to see that. John Bostic was horrendous. That was Mason Foster, Perry Riley-like. Okay? Kevin Pierre-Louis is solid, but he's not a game changer. But you know what? I could live with Kevin Pierre-Louis. I think he needs more snaps. He's not a guy that started in this league before. I don't actually hate Kevin Pierre-Louis out on the field. I just think he needs more reps. Thomas Davis can't run and can't play anymore. He's smart. He knows what's happening. He just can't get there anymore. Cole Holcomb has to play. Period. And whether he's making mistakes or not, Cole Holcomb has to be on the field because it can't get any worse than what we're seeing. The linebackers are killing us. They are absolutely killing us defensively. The Rams did nothing special. When you see this film that I broke down, you're going to say, this is all they were doing? Are you serious right now? And you're going to see John Bostic and Thomas Davis and you're going to see these guys effing up over and over again. And you're going to say, these guys are killing us. Everybody else did their job, and these guys are killing us. I get excited when I watch the film. And this is why I'm more hopeful than a lot of you out there. A lot of you think I'm delusional. I don't know what I'm talking about. This team sucks. They're worse than last year. Yada, yada, yada. And the reason I get excited The reason why I haven't thrown in the towel on this season, yeah, the division stinks. That's a huge part of the reason why. Okay, I never had aspirations of 10-6 or 9-7 or anything of the sort. You know how I felt all year long. I never wavered. I was 6-10, 7-9, all off season long. 6-10 strong, and then as we got closer to the season, I went 7-9. But I told you, we're 5-11 to 7-9. That was my window. So nothing has changed for me. I haven't all of a sudden bailed on the season. Oh my God, we stink. I've always thought we were a 6-10, 7-9 team. The difference is now I can actually put a visual to the product that we're getting on the field. Before, we didn't know. We had these ideas of grandeur of what this defense could be. I thought we could lead the league in sacks. Well, injuries changed that. You take Matt Ioannidis out of the lineup, and you take Chase Young away from us for a week, pretty much 2 weeks, and it changes things drastically. We were leading the league in sacks. We are no longer. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is, this defense is capable. And when I watch the film, I see a defense that's capable. I've watched the defense every week this season at some point of that game be capable. In past years, we were never capable. There were games where we were never capable, where we couldn't get off the field, where it was 3rd and 21 and you knew they were going to convert. When it was 3rd and 14, you knew they were going to convert. I don't worry about those things with this team. We're fully capable on the defensive side of the football. But everybody has to do their job. And until we upgrade specific positions, most notably the linebacker position, this is going to continue to be an issue. And I told you that when we were watching the game on Sunday. I said these LBs and safeties, specifically the linebackers, they are killing us. They're killing us. You could see it on the TV copy. They are killing us. John Bostic specifically. And I told you, I was never a John Bostic fan. I told you, John Bostic is cool to have on your roster as the first linebacker off the bench. He should never be penciled in as your starter. And they did that day one. They came in here and they said, is starting at strong side backer and John Bostic is starting at middle linebacker. They were convinced they had their two guys right there. That's a problem for me. Because John Bostic is there's a reason he's been on 97 NFL teams already and hasn't stuck. Whether it's Indianapolis or it's Pittsburgh or it's Chicago, there's a reason he's been around the league and no one has fallen in love with John Bostic. Because you don't fall in love and marry John Bostic. He's the side piece, okay? You don't get into bed with John Bostic and put a ring on it. You call John Bostic at 2 a.m. We want to be the dumbass team that wants to get down on one knee and propose to John Bostic. This is why the defense struggles. And then Troy Apke at safety, DeShazer Everett comes in. And I like DeShazer Everett. I've long told you I don't love DeShazer Everett. I've told you this before. This is not new news. I told you DeShazer Everett is the black version of, what's my man's name? And I used to love him because I knew he was going to be where Reed Doughty. He's my new Reed Doughty. I don't want him anywhere near my starting lineup. But for depth purposes and for special team purposes, I want him on my team because I know what I'm getting out of him. And in a pinch, if he has to come in, I know he'll be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. Will he make the play? My hands are up. I don't know. I can't tell you that, which is why I don't want DeShazer Everett on the field consistently. But right now, do we have a choice between him or Apke? And look, there's nothing you can do about it at this point of the season. And I don't want to go out and get Earl Thomas. So stop. For those of you, well, we could go sign. I don't want Earl Thomas. I don't. I'm good. Thank you. I'd rather just struggle with the guys that I have this year, clear out the cap space, and we'll figure it out next year. Some of these issues, there's nothing you can do about it right now. I know one thing at linebacker that you can do right now. Insert Cole Holcomb. Give him reps. I do know that if he makes mistakes, I'm willing to live with a second-year linebacker in a new defense trying to figure it out. I'll live with that. What I don't want to keep seeing is a 7-year vet making the same damn mistakes, not running the space where there's no one, covering nobody, running away from guys that he's supposed to be covering, and giving up massive plays and chunk plays. I don't want to keep seeing that over and over again. Let me see Cole Holcomb trying to figure it out. I'd much rather see that. I don't have a Kevin Pierre-Louis problem, even though I think he lacks some instincts as well. But I think his is more of he just hasn't had enough opportunities. John Bostic has had enough opportunities. He is what he is as a football player. I like John Bostic blitzing. I don't really like John Bostic doing much of anything else. The defense is not terrible, guys. And ladies and gents, the defense is not terrible. Listen to me when I speak to you. I'm not just coming out of left field with this. The defense is fully capable. And you see it. There's a reason that Cleveland, who's scoring 30 plus on everybody, was neutralized to 17 points through 3 quarters. Why? And remember, 7 of those points came off of a Dwayne Haskins interception that created a short field that they took advantage of. The reason they were held to 17 and were trailing heading into, because this defense is capable. They're also capable of not being able to get stops. We've seen that too. This defense is far from elite. It's far from difference making or special, but it's fully capable of helping this team win. But some guys are going to have to clean up some of these bad habits, or else we're going to see the same problems week in and week out. These players are what they are. Don't expect all of a sudden out of nowhere John Allen and Daron Payne to become elite individual one-on-one pass rushers. They are who they are. Either you're going to scheme up ways for them to get to the quarterback with stunts and twists and things of that nature, or you're going to have a blitz where they come free, or it is what it is. They're not just going to all of a sudden become these magical difference-making pass rushers. That's not who they are. Just like John Bostic isn't magically going to be great in coverage. Yeah, go get him, John. No, he's a great blitzer. I love John Bostic coming downhill as a blitzer. In any other instance, John Bostic is a liability. Kevin Pierre-Louis is solid. He's got holes in his game. If you ask me right now, outside of quarterback, what's the biggest need on this team? And a lot of you will have different answers. We could ask 10 different fans and we may get 10 different answers. Somebody might think we need another wide receiver. Someone might think we need a new left tackle. Somebody might think we need a new guard. Someone might say, hey, we need a new safety. I will tell you right now, we need an impact linebacker before everything else. Outside of quarterback, that is. Give me an impact linebacker. Maybe Reuben Foster's that guy. I don't know. I wouldn't bank on it. But I can tell you right now, we need a true impact linebacker on this football team. We're missing that, and it is absolutely killing us defensively. That, and we don't even have to have an elite safety. Just have a guy that can do his job adequately at free safety. Give me an athlete that's solid. He may not have the best instincts. Just give me an athlete that's solid, that's doing his job, and I think we'd be just fine on the back end. I actually like the way the corners are playing. Landon hasn't been horrendous. He hasn't been great in coverage, but he hasn't been absolutely terrible. He's had his moments. The Arizona game where he gave up the touchdown on Sunday was all of Landon's fault for the most part. You could sprinkle in a little bit of blame, and I did pass some of that buck to Kendall Fuller. He didn't do a good enough job on that particular play. You'll see it on the film. But linebacker is the one. That's the position right now that I look at and say, man, it's hard for us to stand a chance. And when you see, I'm telling you, when you watch this film and you see the shit that's going down and how it could have been avoided, these are 2-man routes that are kicking our ass. You're going to be, what? I got some super chats, man. Let me take care of those real quick. And this one is from Just Andre. Thank you for the super chat, Just Andre. Greatly appreciate you. Just Andre writes, I think they should give Khaleke Hudson a shot at linebacker. Look, Khaleke Hudson is a special teams guy right now. I don't think they view him as someone that can help them defensively. He's young. And if you're going to try to win the division, the last thing that they want is a guy out there that is going to be running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And I don't know what Khaleke Hudson brings to the table. I liked him at Michigan as a blitzer. I liked his ability to be aggressive around the line of scrimmage, but he's small. It's a small guy. He can get washed in the run game. I don't know if they love Khaleke Hudson and all of the different things he brings. I think they are intrigued by some of the things that he brings to the table, but I don't think they're ready to put him on the field in a starting capacity where they're asking him to put forth big-time snaps. I don't think they're ready to put him in that kind of position. I think Cole Holcomb is the next guy that should be getting some serious reps. I don't think at this point you can take John Bostic off the field just because there's no one to replace him. Like, Khaleke Hudson isn't a middle linebacker. He's a weak side backer. And so the only guy that I think you could potentially put in that role is Cole Holcomb because he played that at North Carolina. But I think they view Cole Holcomb as more of a strong side backer. I look at him as a weak side backer, but I think they view Cole Holcomb as a strong side backer because they think he can play over tight ends. Look, at the end of the day, what I'm telling you is I don't think John Bostic is coming off the field because there's not another middle linebacker to take his spot right now. The only way John Bostic is off the field is if he's in some way impaired and they have to go somewhere else at the linebacker position. He's too integral part of what we do in terms of the coverages. When we go to our base, he's got the green dot on his helmet, so he's calling the plays. There was just a mic'd up of John Bostic from this week's game, and I was dying to watch it because I'm like, this guy's effing up left and right. I'd love to hear him. You know they didn't play that stuff. They didn't play the plays where he's effing up and it's his fault. They just played all the plays where somebody did something good and he's all, yeah, guess what I'm talking about? Good play. No, play me the play where he's dropping to nobody and Gerald Everett is running wide ass open for a 40-yard gain. Play me that play. They're not going to play that play. So I just don't think they're going to, when we go to nickel and we got two linebackers on the field, him and Kevin Pierre-Louis are the two linebackers. So essentially what I'm telling you is they're not going anywhere else. This guy's almost exclusively always on the field in some capacity. So it's rare that he comes off. I just don't see them replacing him with anybody right now. They're comfortable with him, even if it's to the detriment of this defense. They're comfortable with John Bostic being out there. And I'm not saying it's all his fault, everything that happened. He had his worst game as a Washington football team member on Sunday. I mean, this was gross. This was gross. And most of you saw it on the TV copy. The film just hammers it home. And it brings more clarity. That's why I love the film. Because the film brings clarity to everything. You think you might have saw this. You're not sure. All of the guys on the field weren't in view. So you're not sure what everybody was supposed to be doing. The film cleans all of that up for you. Now you know, okay, what is this guy over here doing? Why are you doing this? This is what the defense calls for. What are you doing? Anyway, and we got young players too. Cameron Curl on that 40-yard Gerald Everett play. He got beat. He simply fell for play action fake. He thought it was a run. He sold out. He didn't do his job. He's a young rookie though. I expect that from him. What I don't expect is for our 7-year, veteran middle linebacker wearing the green dot to be making a bunch of mistakes. That's what I don't expect. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Just Andre. Got another one here from Clumsy Jedi 26. Thank you for the super chat, Clumsy Jedi 26, who writes, "Go 1-15, draft Trevor Lawrence. It's that simple." But it's not that simple. It's not that simple. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to change a culture, because there's no guarantee that Trevor Lawrence comes in here and he's everything that everybody thinks he's going to be. I still got my doubts about Trevor Lawrence, to be honest with you. I've watched this guy just about every single game he's played in. He's got his great games. He's got some games where I look at him and I say, is he really all of that? I've seen guys that I felt like were better than Trevor Lawrence. And he's got all the intangibles. And he's got the size and the athleticism. And, but there's some games that I watched him and some big-time games that I watched him in where I'm like, is Trevor Lawrence really as advertised? Like, I don't know if he's this automatic come in, change a franchise, and you're going to automatically start winning because Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback. I'm not willing to go 1-15 to find out either. Not when I got a chance to win the division. To hell with Trevor Lawrence. I got a chance to win the division. This isn't like the end of last year where, some fans wanted to beat the Philadelphia Eagles and the Giants down the stretch because they wanted to win a division game when we had no chance of doing anything other than adding an extra win to the win total. We had a chance to actually win the division. We probably won't, but we got a shot. You can't tell me otherwise when the best team in the division is 2-3 right now, and they just lost their starting quarterback for the entire season. Don't tell me we don't have a shot. And I don't want to hear about, even if we make it, we're going to get beaten the first round. Oh, who gives a shit? You know what? You don't think Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and all these guys that came from prestigious college programs that all they know is winning, you don't think they're tired of losing? You keep talking about, we want to re-sign this guy and we want to you think those guys don't want to go somewhere and win? You think they don't want to get a taste of what it's like to win ball games? Don't tell me that going 1-15 and getting Trevor Lawrence is just all of a sudden going to solve all the ills that we have on this football team. And next year, because we got Trevor Lawrence, we're going to go 10-6 and make the playoffs. That's not a guarantee. Trevor Lawrence could come in here and be awesome and we could still go 5-11 next year. These guys are tired of losing. I'm tired of losing. And when it comes contract time, if all things are equal and this team is giving them $15 million per year and Washington's going to give them $15.2 million a year, you know what? If that other team is closer to winning than the team that I've been on that hasn't won since I've gotten there, you know what I'm going to do? Maybe the grass isn't green on the other side, but I'm willing to take that risk. I'd like to find out because I know the grass is brown on that side. These guys get tired of losing. And it's hard to explain to a guy that, hey, the culture is going to change and just got to hang in there when you go 1-15. Hard to explain that, man, look, we were one of the worst teams in the league last year. You came here to change the culture and we got worse. How is that possible? That team last year, I would argue, is one of the worst teams in Washington football history. Mind you, this team has never drafted number 1 overall. We were second in the draft last year. Second. We came this close to being the number 1 pick in the draft. We've never been bad enough to get the number 1 pick. And we were this close to drafting number 1 overall. Don't tell me that it's okay to go 1-15 just so you can draft Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to draft Trevor Lawrence by going 1-15. If we draft Trevor Lawrence because we trade up for it and we got to give up King's ransom, so be it. If he's all that you think he's going to be and that everybody else thinks he's going to be, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. Don't tell me you wouldn't have traded what we traded for Robert Griffin III if Griffin was still here and we was reliving 2012 all over again every other year because he was the legit truth. We would have been laughing at that price tag. Oh, 3 first-round picks for a stable quarterback situation for the next 15 years? Hell yeah, you do that in a heartbeat. Yeah, it's a steep price to pay. But you know what else is reassuring? Knowing that you got the guy for the next 15 years. And Trevor Lawrence, if he's as good as advertised and you can get up there and get him, then you do it. But I don't want to lose to get him. Nah, that's not what I'm after. I'm after this division crown. It's there to be had. It's there for the taking. Let's try and take it. We already got a win in the division. We got a chance over the next 3 weeks to win 3 more divisional games. If we can get to 4-0 in the division and overall in the season, we can get to 3 straight wins would put us at 4-4. Who knew? We got a shot. The Giants twice in 3 weeks? Seriously, we can do this. We really can. I know some of you think I'm crazy. The film makes me feel differently than watching the game on Sundays. I told you I like what I saw from Kyle Allen. I don't know about you. I like what I saw. We're not going to be playing against Aaron Donald next week. We're not playing against Myles Garrett next week or the week after that for that matter. I like these matchups. We're getting Brandon Sheriff back here shortly. He practiced today. I really like what's going on. Stands for a couple of things, and those couple of things may be the undoing of this team this year. I'm not oblivious to the fact that we've got holes on this roster. And we're not a very good team. I'm aware of this. But our division isn't very good either. So that gives us a shot. If we played in any other division in football, this season is already done. But we don't. We play in the NFC East, and this division stinks, and so we have a shot. Why not? I digress. Thank you for the super chat, Clumsy Jedi 26. Solo Vision Z, thank you for the super chat, Solo Vision Z. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, how do you feel about Landon Collins' play this year? Do you think the organization regrets paying him all that money now? I think they do. But remember, the guys that paid him that money aren't here anymore. Bruce Allen was the guy that spearheaded that. And I think Dan really wanted him, which is why he did the whole Sean Taylor, giving him the jersey and all that stuff. He played to Landon Collins's emotional strings. He pulled and tugged at those, and the money doesn't hurt, making him the highest paid safety by a large amount at the time. I think they do regret. I don't know if Dan does, but I think, this defensive staff is looking like, man, we could have done a lot of different things with that money other than sign Landon Collins if this is how he's going to play. I think they still like Landon a lot. I think they feel like the free safety position is really hurting them, and it's hurting Landon's play too. I'm not going to give him a pass. I'm not going to cut him any slack. I don't care what the free safety is doing. He's not doing his job good enough, adequately enough. So how do I feel about Landon's play this year? I think it's uneven. That's the best way to describe it. He hasn't been terrible every single week. He hasn't been great in any given week. But he's had his moments. Like, he started off that Philadelphia game in week 1. Terrible. Couldn't make a tackle. Had a stupid personal foul penalty out of bounds. He was awful early. And as the game progressed, I think like the midpoint of the second quarter, he turned it around and he was awesome in that football game. Awesome in that game. I think it was the best stretch that he played this season, was that second, midway through the second, all the way through the rest of that Eagles game. Landon Collins was phenomenal. Then the Arizona game, he makes a big boo-boo. Falls asleep behind the wheel in the red zone on a 3rd and goal when we got a chance to get off the field and force them to kick a field goal, and he just turns DeAndre Hopkins loose for a touchdown. That's terrible. You know what he did, though? He made up for it with a pick on the next possession that set this offense up with a chance to go tie the game up. Now, what they did with it is on them. He did his part. So there's the good Landon, there's the bad Landon. He was absolutely awful versus the Cleveland Browns. It was his worst game of the season, and it's not even close. I thought he was solid last week against the Ravens. Was he great? No. Got stiff-armed by Lamar Jackson on a 50-yard touchdown, or 2 weeks ago. Was he great against the Rams? No. Gave up a 56-yard touchdown. First play of the second quarter. No, he wasn't great. But he hasn't been awful either. He made some good plays in that game versus the Rams. He tackled a lot better in that game versus the Rams. He was around the action. I like Landon Collins. I don't love Landon Collins. And for the money we paid him, you better best damn well love him. And I don't right now. Thank you for the super chat, Solo Vision Z. Let's see. Got another super chat here from JP. My man John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JP writes, if he's available, get me Micah Parsons, linebacker from Penn State. He's a stud. He's a stud. And where I think we're ultimately going to be in this draft, I think he will still be available. But this season is so funky in terms of college football. And, the Big Ten is about to get their season underway here in 2 weeks or so. And it's just weird, watching some of these guys. Some of these guys have opted out. Then some of these guys opted back in. It's just weird. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard eval for some of these teams and some of these players for that matter, because there's not as much film as you would normally get in a standard, 2-year, 3-year career for some of these guys. But at the end of the day, this guy's a rare talent, is Micah Parsons. And I think we'll be in that wheelhouse right there in that look, we can draft anywhere from 7, because I contend that we're not in a top 5 pick. I know a lot of you think we're going to draft in the top 5. I think you're wrong, but we've done that enough times. I think we can end up drafting anywhere from 7 to 22. 22 being that we won the division and hosted a home playoff game. 7 being the worst case scenario for me. We finished, I think we finished somehow ahead of the Giants in the division. I don't ask me how. I just think we do. Daniel Jones is a turnover machine. They play competitive, tough football, but they lose games. They still haven't faced the level of competition that we have yet. They haven't played the Ravens yet. They haven't played the Cardinals yet. They haven't played the Browns yet. They did play the Steelers. We haven't played them, but I like where our schedule is. We've gotten past a lot of the tough portion of our schedule. A lot of the teams in our division haven't. The Cowboys haven't played the Ravens yet. They're going to play Arizona on Monday. That's a tough out, the Arizona Cardinals are. So when I look around the rest of the division, the Eagles haven't played the Ravens. They're going to play them this week. The Eagles haven't played the Browns. The Browns are a good football team. So I like that we've gotten rid of some of those teams. No, we haven't played Seattle yet, and Dallas has. And so that's a game that's still looming for us. But the Giants haven't played them either. So when I look at the Giants, use their 49ers up. The 49ers look ripe for the picking to me. And I know we get them later on in the season, and they may be a different team. They may be better. Jimmy Garoppolo could be back, and they could be firing on all cylinders at that point. But they look like a shell of themselves this year. And I think that's a winnable game all of a sudden, which when the season schedule came out, you thought that's a loss. Well, it doesn't have to be now, does it? So I digress. I don't want to play the schedule game. We could end up from 7 to 22. That's the way I see it. And somewhere in there lies our pick. And if we're anywhere in that 7 to 12 range, Michael Parsons is going to be in that range. And I think you could end up landing yourself a difference-making linebacker. Now, again, if we end up with a pick in 7 to 12, that means the quarterback position is still unsolved. That means Kyle Allen isn't the guy, which I don't think he is, but he's got essentially 11 games to prove otherwise. You're going to have to do something at quarterback. A guy like Michael Parsons, to me, with our quarterback situation the way it is, he's not even on the table for us because unless we do something in free agency, Cam Newton is going to be available. That's still a possibility. You look around the league and you see who's going to be available as a veteran quarterback. Maybe there's a guy out there that they like, that they go after. But at the end of the day, more likely than not, you're drafting a quarterback in the first round. And if you are, Michael Parsons is a first round pick. There's no way you're going to get your hands on Michael Parsons if you have to trade up to get a quarterback. Anyway, I digress. Barrett Downing, thank you for the super chat. BD, greatly appreciate you as always. My man Barrett writes, love your passion, Lou. I feel you. Keep grinding. Thank you. And I love your passion and your consistent support, man. Thank you so much. Metaphor. I like the way you spelled that too. That's dope. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Metaphor. Le'Veon move. Maybe trash O-line equals Jets result. I'm good on Le'Veon. I don't think, look, Le'Veon Bell 1 isn't looking to play for a 1-4 team. Look, he got paid a lot of money, and he's still getting paid a lot of money from the Jets. He doesn't have to play anymore this season if he doesn't want to. He's still getting checks, okay? His salary for this year, fully guaranteed. So he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. So my idea of coming back to play football, if I'm Le'Veon Bell, is playing for a contender. I want to go to the Chiefs. I want to go somewhere where I'm going to have a chance to win. I don't want to go to the 1-4 Washington football team. That's not my idea of having a chance to maximize the rest of my career. If I'm going to take a pounding this year, it needs to be for a contender that can win a ring. If not, I can sit at home, get healthy, rest my body, and come back next year and say, hey, I'm rejuvenated, I'm fresh, I'm ready to go. Who wants to sign me? Work out for some teams and get a deal that way. So he's not coming here. So that's not even something that we need to consider. And we're not considering it because we have backs that they like. And I'll take it a step further. He's not considering us. Brendan McCloskey, thank you for the super chat. Brendan McCloskey, greatly appreciate you. Brendan writes, Louie is so football smart. When is he going to get a head coaching job? LOL. Yeah, right. I got so much to learn about this game. It's not even funny. But I can tell you what, if you're willing to learn and you're willing to listen to the right people, you can learn about this game. I've learned so much, man. I learned a lot in high school from one of my coaches. And I took that knowledge and I just continued to learn and to grow and to study. And then you listen to guys like Chris Cooley, and he had his own podcast at one time and he was breaking stuff down. And then he was on a radio program with Kevin Sheehan and he was breaking down the film. And I would go and I would listen to his film breakdowns and I would watch the film to see what he was seeing and have him explain the play. And so I learned that way as well. And so now I'm able to look at stuff and I can break it down myself. I see what's going on. I understand the game. And so, I played before. I didn't play at a high level. I played at high school level. So it's not like I played at a collegiate level or I played, at a high level and I've got this high level understanding of what teams are trying to do. But I have a working knowledge of what they're trying to do. And really, football's not that hard. It really isn't. It's not rocket science. Now, how you make adjustments and the verbiage and how you do some of that stuff is pretty complex. You got to be in it to get it. You got to study. But to see what teams are doing on the field, it's not rocket science. It's not hard. This is why the film study is so fun for me. Because it's not hard to see that the Rams are trying to isolate Aaron Donald one-on-one against our guards. And that they're overloading one side to force a one-on-one matchup. And you've got to make the adjustment. Just like the Rams did against us. They thought we were coming with 6-man pressure against 5-man protection. So what does Jared Goff do? Can, which means I'm canceling the first play that we had called at the line of scrimmage, and we're going with the second play that we had in the huddle. If they're going to give us pressure, we had 2 plays called in the huddle. One for no pressure, one for a pressure look. So now we're going to cancel the first play. I'm going to bring my running back in. He was split out wide. I'm going to bring him in now, and I'm going to bring him in this A-gap. And now I got 6-man protection. I got jet protection, which is a 6-man protection to pick up your 6 blitzers. All right, your 6 rushers. Then Washington drops out, and it's only a 4-man pressure. But now you've altered what the Rams wanted to do. They didn't want to take away. Sean McVay is so big on, I want 100% of my eligibles. You've just taken away 20% of his eligibles by forcing that running back to come in and have to block. And he didn't have to because we only brought 4, but we looked like we were bringing 6. That's smart. That's not hard to see when you watch the film. You understand that concept. The Ravens did it to us last week. I broke that down on the film. This is why the film is so important. So if you're not getting the film, then it's hard for you to process all of this. And when I talk about things, you think I'm crazy. That's why you have to get in on this film. And if you're not on Patreon, you need to get on Patreon because there's a lot here that you're missing. If you want to learn. If you don't want to learn and you want to stay in the dark, ignorance is bliss. That's what a wise woman once told me. I don't believe that to be wise. I don't think ignorance is great. Sometimes it is. Most times it's not. I don't want to be in the dark. I'd much rather know and deal with the evil I know than the evil I don't know. So ignorance isn't bliss for me. But for some of you, it is, and that's fine. But I thank you, Brendan McCloskey. I greatly appreciate you. Anyhow, Extra Squaw. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Extra Squaw, who writes, understand it's early, but who would you prefer to draft as our franchise quarterback? And also, what moves do you think we should make in free agency? Well, you said it already. You knew that what I was going to say, which is why you prefaced it with, I know it's early. Well, no, it is early. So it's hard to make that determination right now. You can't say it's early and then expect an answer because, again, it's early and we don't know. Kyle Allen could light it up. And this is far-fetched. I don't think this is going to happen, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But he's got 11 games. He could go 8-3 in these 11 games. We could end up being 9-7 and win the division. And all of a sudden, we're looking at Kyle Allen in a totally different light. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but it changes everything drastically. Now, if you want my opinion, obviously, I'd take Trevor Lawrence if I can get my hands on him. I do think he's going to be really good. I do think there are some holes in his game, but I think those things can iron themselves out over time. I do think this guy's legit. I'm not sold on the Ohio State kid quite yet. Justin Fields. I'm not quite sold on him yet. Trey Lance is intriguing, but he's only played 1 year of college football. So if you thought Dwayne wasn't ready, what makes you think Trey Lance is ready after just 1 year? I don't know. That's just me. You look at the rest of those quarterbacks. Kyle Trask out of Florida is a guy that's going to be intriguing, and I think he's going to shoot up draft boards when it's all said and done. I talked about Jamie Newman. I really think he hurt himself by, and look, that was his choice. That was his decision, but I think he hurt himself by sitting out this college football season. People really needed to see him at Georgia against elite level competition, what he was capable of doing. And by sitting out, I think he really hurt himself. But, the talent is there with Jamie Newman. He's a big kid. He's 6'4". He's 225 pounds. He's an athlete. Everything's there. But I just needed to see more of it. Just like I needed to see more of Trey Lance. And you're not going to. And he's got 2 first names. I don't trust guys with 2 first names. So there's a lot of different intricacies of this quarterback class that are going to play themselves out. It's just early. The college football season is weird and funky this year. There's a lot of different dimensions to this. As for free agency, I can tell you right now, I don't ever look at free agency. I'm not looking that far ahead to be able to tell you who's going to be a free agent at various positions. The only guys I can tell you about are the ones that got slapped with the franchise tag last year. I love Justin Simmons. I told you I was a huge fan of Harris of Minnesota. These are guys that would fit perfectly in our defense and we could use desperately. So either one of those guys, now you're going to have to pay. Okay, those guys are premium safeties. You're going to have to pay for it, but we got the money if we want to do that. I don't think they want to invest another big money contract in the safety after spending the money that they've spent on Landon Collins. And they can eventually get out of that Collins deal. I think it was $84 million. He doesn't have to make $84 million. I think that deal is really more like 50 something million. You can get out of it. There's a lot of money that was backloaded that you can get out of. There's an exit ramp there. I don't know if they're trying to get out of it or not. But linebacker is another position. I can't tell you who's going to be a free agent right now. I just know we need to upgrade the linebacker position. I know we need to help at the receiver position. We need, whether it's a veteran or a young guy, we need another receiver. They probably want a veteran because we've got enough young guys on this roster as is. So they probably want to add a veteran. They wanted to add one last year. They tried with Amari Cooper. So we could use an upgraded tight end. You know how I feel. There's a number of different ways. If we can't get Hunter Henry, that's the only guy I want. He's still on a 1 year franchise tag. If we can't get Hunter Henry, I just want to draft somebody. If he stays healthy this year, he's had his issues with injuries throughout his career, and that's somewhat of a turnoff to some of you, and I understand that, and I totally get it. If we can't get Hunter Henry, I just want to draft a guy. And there are going to be some talented guys like Brevin Jordan, like Kyle Pitts. This draft is going to be like 2 years ago when it was loaded at tight end with Noah Fant and company and TJ Hawkinson and all those guys that I love, Dawson Knox, and all these guys that I thought were uber talented. I think we're going to get another one of those types of drafts this year at the tight end position. But again, are we going to be in position to draft one of these guys? Probably not. So don't get fixated on all of these, elite prospects. Don't talk to me about getting a tight end, an elite tight end, or Micah Parsons. If you want a quarterback, you can't double dip, especially if we're not drafting second overall without having to trade up. You're not going to be able to double dip. You got to just take the guys that fall to you. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for the super chat, Extra Squaw. Twin D, my man Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Shout out to Twin D for winning the weekly pick'em pool this past week. You told me you went 11-3. I didn't believe you. I was like, I don't believe you. You need more people. And then I got to breaking down the sheet, and I said, shit. You had some bold picks, my man. You had Chicago. You had Tennessee. You had Miami. You had only one that didn't pan out for you, and it almost did, was the Eagles. You were hot. You knew something. You had some intel, and it all worked out for you. You had a hell of a week, 11-3, and congratulations to you. Also, congratulations to my man Jay Moo for winning the Survivor Pool. Wow, I can't believe it's over after 5 weeks, and I didn't win again. 8 years, still haven't won. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, that's 2 of them. I'm keeping count. Twin D says, John Bostic is the side piece. Is the all-time greatest description of a player I've heard in a long time. And oh yeah, was it Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence at one point? There's no guarantee. It also matters where you go. I wasn't a Sam Darnold guy. Some people thought Sam Darnold was going to come in and tear the league up. I had a problem with, and this is why they're two totally different quarterbacks. One, Sam Darnold isn't the athlete that Trevor Lawrence is. Never has been, never will be. 2, but Sam Darnold showed us he's got some athleticism on that Thursday night on that 46-yard touchdown run. He's a little bit better of an athlete than I thought. But Trevor Lawrence doesn't have a turnover problem. Sam Darnold did at USC. That was the thing that turned me off to Sam Darnold coming into the league, is that, hey, you put a little bit of pressure on Sam Darnold and he'll make some mistakes. We've seen that in the league. That's not necessarily the case with Trevor Lawrence. Now, I've seen him be a little erratic. You go watch that LSU game. He was all out of sorts in that national championship game versus LSU. So there are times when Trevor Lawrence looks a little uneasy and imbalanced in terms of his production. But I've also seen this guy tear it up, like against Alabama in the national championship game a couple of years ago. So this guy's fully capable. But there's no guarantees. You're right. Doesn't matter who it is. There are no guarantees in this thing. None. You think that there are certain guys that make you feel like it's close to a guarantee, but there are no guarantees in this thing. Thank you for the super chat, Twin D. Got another super chat here from, let's see. Got one here from Jamal Long. Thank you for the super chat, Jamal Long. Greatly appreciate you. Jamal writes, even though Justin Fields may be a better prospect than Haskins, if in a position to take him, do you trust gambling on another Ohio State quarterback? I can't. I've always said, buyer beware. Buyer beware on Ohio State quarterbacks. I used to say the same thing about LSU wide receivers. I used to say the same thing about USC wide receivers. I used to say the same thing about Ohio State quarterbacks. And I haven't met a one that has changed my mind. I've long said, be careful for Big Ten quarterbacks in general. When's the last time a Big Ten quarterback's come in the league and lit it up? Penn State's, I can't remember. I remember Christian Hackenberg once upon a time, highest recruited high school recruit in the nation. Bill O'Brien gets a hold of him that first year. He looked like he was money. Bill O'Brien leaves, goes to the league. Christian Hackenberg looks like shit. Gets in the league, can't play. Doesn't even get a chance. The Jets were so bad at quarterback, and they did everything not to put Christian Hackenberg on the field as a second-round pick. I don't know if that guy ever played a snap in this league under center as a starting quarterback. Penn State's got an issue at quarterback. I don't trust Michigan quarterbacks. When's the last time one of those guys stepped in? I think you got to go back to Brady in 2000. Since Brady, has there been another Michigan quarterback? Help me. I don't remember another Michigan quarterback coming in and tearing it up. Besides Tom Brady. They've had quite a few guys that were highly touted, like a Drew Henson over the years. Chad Henne. Yeah, I blame it on the Henne. None of these guys really panned out in the league. Again, Ohio State. This is like going back to this. I think the last quarterback that they had that was supposed to be good was like the Art Schluster guy that was banned from the league for gambling. He was in jail and he just had some off the field issues. Kirk Herbstreit? I mean, what are we talking about? Troy Smith? I mean, what are we doing? What was the guy that won the national championship? Cardale Jones? I mean, Ohio State, they produce college quarterbacks. They don't produce NFL quarterbacks. The last good Big Ten quarterback, you could argue, they both came in the league in 2012. Kirk Cousins out of Michigan State Russell Wilson out of Wisconsin. Where else did you find a Big 10 quarterback? You go up and down that conference. They're not producing high-level quarterbacks in that conference. I'll go there for an offensive lineman in a heartbeat. I'll draft a running back from the Big 10. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Hell, I've even turned the corner and said, you know what? I'll take a linebacker or two, too. Used to think they couldn't run. Linebackers and corners and couldn't run in that conference. I'll take a couple of corners and linebackers. I want no parts of their quarterbacks, man. They stink. Not just Ohio State. Thank you for the super chat, Jamal Long. And to answer your question, what I've learned, though, is that you can't punish guys for what guys in the past did at their schools. Just because there's a long line of trash that's been littered on the ground from that school doesn't mean the next guy is going to be trash as well. But there's, in the back of your mind, it's hard not to consider that. We're humans. So, I get it. But if you think Justin Fields is legit and he has some workable traits and you can mold him into the quarterback you want him to be, you take him. Got a super chat here from Quentin Ruiz. Thank you for the super chat, Quentin Ruiz, who writes, honest opinion on Jonathan Allen. I'm not a fan. He says, I think Jonathan Allen is a quality football player. I really do. I think he's a good leader on and off the field. I think he's a reliable guy in the run game. He hustles. He plays hard. But there's a ceiling on Jonathan Allen. Like, his potential isn't through the roof. Daron Payne has more potential than Jonathan Allen does. Jonathan Allen isn't a tremendous athlete. He just works extremely hard. And I've heard this before. I've heard this multiple times. I heard this from guys at Alabama who said, we would love to take Jonathan Allen's mentality, his work ethic, the way he approaches the game on and off the field. We'd love to take that and stick it in to Daron Payne's body. Because Daron Payne's a better athlete than Jonathan Allen. But at the end of the day, Jonathan Allen's got a limit to how good he can be. I thought when we got him, I saw this guy diving over fullbacks and offensive linemen to sack a guy, 5-yard dives looking like Superman through the air. He just came off a double-digit sack season. He was all over the place on a dominant Bama defense. I was thinking, this guy looks legit. We got a steal at 17. There's a reason that they wanted a guy from Bama at 17, but it wasn't Jonathan Allen. If you remember in that draft, they wanted the center from Alabama that got drafted by the Colts. Kelly. I think it was Ryan Kelly is his name. I think that was his name. That's who they wanted. They ended up having to take Jonathan Allen. I don't have a problem with Jonathan Allen. Again, I've said this before. If Allen wants to be back on a reasonable number, because he's not an elite player, so I don't want to pay him elite money. But I love his presence in the locker room. I love his effort. I love what he provides on the field from a run-stopping perspective. But I don't love him in pass rush situations. I don't. However, when you start running twists and stunts, he's exceptional at that. So it's all about how you use Jonathan Allen. I don't have a Jonathan Allen problem. I like him. And I think you can win with Jonathan Allen. Again, if Jonathan Allen can be had on a 4-year, $32 million deal, I'd love to have him back. Love to have him back. If John Allen wants a 4-year, $48 million deal, then you just say, hey, man, it's been fun. We really appreciate what you've done for us. I'm not paying you $12 million a year to just stop the run. Sorry, I'm not doing that. Now, if you want to get 8 a year, I would be more than welcome to have you. I'd love to have you. So, my honest opinion on Jonathan Allen is that he's got a low ceiling and a high floor. You know what you're getting. They call guys like him clear packaging football players because you can see right through and you know exactly what you're getting. You know exactly what he is. I can look right inside that container and I know exactly what I'm getting. Now with Daron Payne, there's a little bit of tint there. Not quite sure what's in the packaging. I know there's some talent here. I know there's a little bit of not necessarily laziness, but the will to want to be great isn't as great with Daron Payne. Some plays he wants to be great. Other plays, I'm good. Can he take his game to the next level? Sure he can. Will he? I don't know the answer to that. But on Jonathan Allen, he's a good football player. He's not great. He'll never be great. And it just matters, how do you view him and how do you think of him and what do you think of him and what are you willing to pay him and what is he willing to take? That's what it boils down to. Thank you for the super chat, Quentin Ruiz. Niles T, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Got a super chat here from Zacchaeus Maggette III. Really appreciate you, Zacchaeus. Thank you for the super chat, who writes, I'm afraid we're going to eventually lose Terry because he's going to get tired of being overthrown when he's open. And this is back to a much broader point that I tried to make at the top of the show. This whole going 1-15 narrative, it sucks. First of all, I don't subscribe to that. You know that. But guys get tired of losing. You got guys that lost all of 4 games their entire collegiate career. And they've already lost 4 games in just this season. This gets old fast. When you're a competitor like Terry McLaurin and Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, and you come from schools with big-time pedigree, and you lost 3-4 games in 3 years, this shit is not cool. It's not okay. And you don't want to be a part of this. This is dysfunction at its greatest. And to think that 1-15 is okay just so you can draft one player that you think can change this franchise? Well, guess what? We've drafted a bunch of first-round quarterbacks that we thought were going to change this franchise, and they didn't. We thought Robert Griffin III was going to change this franchise, and he didn't. He did for 1 year. Eventually, guys get tired of losing. And they think that there are greener pastures elsewhere. And no matter how much money, there's a reason Amari Cooper said, I don't care how much money you guys are throwing at me. It's not enough to get me to leave Dallas. Guys don't want to come here to lose. Guys don't want to stay here to lose. You got to give them some incentive that things are going to change. And drafting Trevor Lawrence after a 1-15 season doesn't give guys the sense change is coming. A 7-9 season after going 3-13 does, however, start to show players that maybe we are going in the right direction. Maybe there is hope for us. Because eventually, guys aren't going to care how much money you throw at them. You want to franchise tag me? Fine. Do it. I'll play 1 more year. You're not going to franchise me twice. It got to a point where Kirk was like, I don't want to be here. It gets to a point where Brandon Sheriff may look at us in the offseason and says, I don't want to be here. And maybe we don't want him. I already told you. If Brandon Sheriff is commanding big top dollar on the free agent market, I'd much rather go elsewhere and spend that money elsewhere. I can't wait to see him back on the field. And I think he's coming back faster than I thought he was going to because he understands this is a contract year. I can't afford to miss 8 games this year. I'm trying to convince somebody I'm worth $90 million. 59 of it guaranteed. If I'm trying to convince somebody of that, I got to play. Can't be missing 8 games this year. So looks like Sheriff is going to be back sooner rather than later. He may play this week. He may not play this week. He practiced today. That's good news. But we've seen in the past, guys practice and don't play. Like Cole Holcomb, all last week, practice, did not play, was not active on Sunday. So it doesn't matter if he practices, he still may not play this week. But he's getting close. Anyhow, I don't even know if it matters about being overthrown when open. I just think Terry wants to win, man. He's a competitor. I love Terry's spirit. It's a fighting spirit. It's a desire to want to be great. And you need other guys around him that are willing to do the same, willing to put in the work to create a culture and an environment that breeds winning. I don't know if we have enough of those guys right now, especially from a talent perspective. Anyway, I got another super chat here. This one is from Brandon McCloskey. Thank you for doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Brandon McCloskey, and being the first to do so tonight. Greatly appreciate you. Brendan writes, can't wait for our D-line to kill the Giants. I guarantee the Chase Young is going to have at least 3 sacks on Danny Dimes. If he gets one-on-one, I saw last week Tank Lawrence take their first-round pick, Thomas, to school on a sack forced fumble that was scooped up by Dallas and run for a touchdown as they tied that game up at 17. I like that matchup for us. I like the matchup against either one of their tackles. I think Montez Sweat could have a big day. I really think we could eat them alive if they're not careful. First thing we got to do is stop the run, though. I think they're really getting comfortable with Devontae Freeman at running back, and they're going to try to establish the run. If we shut that down and force them to throw it, I really think we can get after his ass. I could see a game in which we got 7 sacks. I really could see that. But they're going to try to take Chase Young out of the mix. Somebody else is going to have to win, and we'll see what happens. But I like this matchup for us. I've said that already multiple times. I think this is a good matchup for us. I know some of you are like, you do realize the Giants just scored 34 points. And my response to that is, yes, I do realize that. I also realize they did it against one of the worst defenses in football in the Dallas Cowboys, who hasn't scored 30-plus against Dallas. Now, we may not do it. We may not score 30-plus against Dallas next week. All right, but everybody else is doing it. Why the hell not? Why the hell not? So, we'll see. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up, Brendan McCloskey. Got another super chat here from my man, JP. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, JP. Greatly appreciate you. My man, John, writes, you think Washington is regretting not drafting Tremaine Edmonds in 2018? Because I do. No, I don't think they're looking back. It's revisionist history at this point. As I've mentioned, you have who you have at this point. You can't go back and change it. It is what it is. You know how I felt about Tremaine Edmonds in that draft. He was my guy. I wanted him at 13. And he was there. Or was it? It was 15, I believe, that year. He was there. They decided to pass on him. They decided to pass on Derwin James. And they decided to go with Daron Payne. It is what it is. Payne's here. Edmonds is in Buffalo. What can you do? You know, there's nothing you can do. So you just move forward and you play with what you have. So I don't think they regret it, though. Again, a lot of the guys that drafted him aren't here anymore. So you can't miss what you never had. Like, Rivera didn't know that Edmonds, he was in Carolina busy worried about who they were going to draft that year. Like, he's not thinking about what we could have had in 2018. Like, I don't think they were regretting it at all. Got another super chat here. This one is from Niles T. Thank you for the super chat, Niles T, and doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Niles T. Greatly appreciate you. Niles writes, LOL, I messed up the first super chat. I saw that. It's all good, man. I appreciate you either way. He says, but I like the show enough to send again. Ron's been questionable. Clock, QB choices, etc. Maybe he's flustered. There is a little bit of a prevailing thought that maybe Ron's a little off. You know, there's a lot going on in that man's life, including chemotherapy. You know, we've seen him exhausted on the sidelines a couple of weeks ago versus the Ravens, where he had to sit down during every TV timeout. Like, there's a lot going on with Ron Rivera. And, you know, maybe some of the questionable decisions and some of these explanations that we've been getting from him, maybe they stem from a guy that is a little overwhelmed by everything that's going on in his life. That's a possibility. I don't think that's the case. But I think that some of these decisions have just been questionable. And Ron, I don't think Ron is really sure about some of the things that he's done his damn self. I think in his mind, he thinks about some of these decisions that they're the right decision in the moment. But I think if he had to do it all over again, he might have, done something different in a couple of these instances. Look, I don't think Dwayne was ever his guy. I really don't. And unless Dwayne showed him something in those first 4 games of the season, I think he was ready to move on from Dwayne regardless. And he already had told us in his mind he had a 2-2 start out of the gate. And if Dwayne couldn't do that, then he was going to move on from him. And he did. So I think he was looking for excuses, like the whole, I wanted to put Dwayne in a situation and check his situational awareness. That's bullshit. You're at the 13-yard line, and it's 4th and goal from the 13. What do you think is going to happen? He's not going to, I guess, throw it in the end zone. Yeah, Dwayne should have done that, duh. But he didn't. Is that a benchable offense? Probably not. But I think Ron at that point was looking for anything, any reason to bench Dwayne, and he did. Some of these clock management gaffes, there's no explanation for this stuff. Almost not getting a field goal in that Ravens game, inexcusable. Barely got a timeout in there. Dwayne was ready to run another play with like 6 seconds left. You weren't getting a timeout after that. So there's a lot of questionable decisions being made by Ron, including the one last week to keep Alex Smith in the game. At the end of the day, we're going to see what happens moving forward. I try not to judge people on their worst moments, but better, how do they handle adversity? Period. Not just when they're down in the dumps. I just want to see how he handles some of this adversity. He hasn't handled all of this adversity very well to this point, but he has been consistent in how he's handled it, which has been clumsily. He's been consistent. But the message hasn't changed. Other than it was, hey, and I know what he's doing, and I get it. The message really hasn't changed from, I want to develop guys. It just changed. The thing that altered was the division stinks, and he didn't account for that. So now he's like, okay, we got to change course. He just didn't explain it well. And I talked about that already. He hasn't done a lot of things well. I don't think he's handled the mic well. Some of these decisions have been questionable. He's made it worse. You know what a wise woman once told me? It's not necessarily the act that you're going to get in the most trouble for. It's the covering up of the act that's going to get you in more trouble. I'm a big crime show buff. Watch a lot of First 48, a lot of crime shows, a lot of Dateline, Secrets Uncovered, things of that nature. And a lot of times, what I've realized in watching these shows is if something goes down and some shit happens and you didn't mean for it to happen, look, somebody loses their life, somebody's got to pay for that. But what makes it worse, and if you've got nothing to do with it, you better take your ass to the authorities. I know somebody, you can't snitch. Well, if they catch the person that did it and they implicate you, or somebody puts you at the scene and you knew about this and you didn't do anything about it, you're going to get charged with murder too. It's not the fact that the act happened. That happened. You can't change that. What you can change is what happens after that act takes place. And Ron has done some questionable things to this point. And he's had a chance when he stepped up to the mic to clarify some things. Maybe not say too much, but say just enough to make us go, I could see that. And he's made it worse by trying to cover up the fact that you've done some really questionable shit. That's what gets you in trouble. And so that's what made me say, is Ron trying to sabotage the season? Like, I never want to think my coach is sabotaging my season. And I don't think NFL coaches are allowed to do that because of the quick turnover nature of this league. Oh, you want to sabotage? You won't be around when this thing turns around. So I don't think Ron is sabotaging his team to try to get a high draft pick. But I can tell you what, he hasn't made it any better. If someone's out there with a conspiracy theorist theory on Ron and what he's doing or not doing, he hasn't made it any easier to dispel that with the way he's explained things. And that's why I said sometimes less is better. The more you talk, the more you expose yourself to potentially tripping up, saying something you're not supposed to say, or having them use that against you and throw it in your face down the line. The more you talk, the more you get yourself into trouble. Again, watching First 48, I learned that quickly. The more you talk, the more you put yourself in a bind, because they're going to use those words against you. Okay? If they didn't have you at the scene and you put yourself at the scene, or you talk about a person in past tense and they didn't tell you that that person was dead. Wait, what do you mean was? What do you mean by that? Oh, got your ass. Just because you use the past tense of a phrase or of a word, stop talking. And Ron is talking too much, but that's his personality. I've seen that already. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. He could be flustered. I just think he's a guy that right now has gotten himself into some quandaries by just talking too damn much. Yeah, some of these actions have been questionable, but your explanations of them have been even worse. So, for whatever that's worth. Thank you for the super chat, Niles T. Got another super chat here from Rockman1033. Thank you for the super chat, Rockman1033, who writes, what about bringing Crowder back? Nah, I'm good on JC Ice. I can tell you what, they love him in New York. He's the only thing they've got out there. If not for him, their offense would be the worst in football right now. So I don't think they're going to allow JC Ice to go anywhere. And as far as bringing him back here, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I didn't want Crowder to leave the first time. I liked Crowder. I just had a problem with him staying healthy. You know, if he could be healthy, I like him as a football player. He gets open, he wins, he catches the football. There's a lot to like about Jamison Crowder. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's a road we need to go down again. I think we can get another young guy to come in and fill that, a younger, cheaper option, if you will. So I'm good on Jamison Crowder. But thank you for that super chat, Rockman1033. Got a super chat here from King of the North. And my man King of the North writes, between Rivera and Jack Del Rio, you would think they would know Bostic is a major liability in coverage. Why leave him in? This stuff, he said, this is stuff Manusky did. First of all, I told you that this was told to me when we first hired Ron Rivera. Had a couple of people that I trust that are Carolina Panthers fans that immediately upon his hire came to me and said, hey, look, these are some things you need to know. One, his clock management skills are awful. You'll figure that out yourself, though. I'm like, well, we're used to it. We haven't had a clock managing guru of a coach ever. So, for whatever that's worth. He said, and he's deferential to veterans, which is why I went the way that I did with the roster in camp, like keeping a Trey Quinn, for instance, over an Isaiah Wright. Even though everybody was telling me Isaiah Wright's going to be on this roster, I didn't believe them because Ron himself said this season has been so unique that veterans are going to get the benefit of the doubt, like a Wes Schweitzer who barely practiced in training camp and throughout the offseason, but still made this football team. And I thought Trey Quinn was going to get that benefit of the doubt, but he didn't. He said Ron is deferential to veterans almost to a fault. And I said, okay. That's good information to know. And so a guy like Bostic, I think they're just comfortable with him because he knows where everybody's supposed to be. He can get everybody lined up. He's a smart football player. And they trust that the mistakes that he makes aren't going to be from a mental standpoint. Like, he knows what he's supposed to do. I don't doubt for 1 second that John Bostic knows where he's supposed to go, knows what he's supposed to do. I just don't think he has the instincts necessary to be a dynamic football player. I just don't. I think that's what's missing from John Bostic. I think he's a better athlete than people think he is. I think he's an exceptionally smart guy, which is why they really like him. I just think he's lacking that last ingredient that you need to be a dynamic linebacker in this league. And that's instincts. He doesn't have it. He's a robot out there. He's mechanical. You see it on film. I break it down this week. He's mechanical. He's always thinking. He's always processing information. You got to just go out and play. And he's not capable of doing that. And that's where the disconnect comes. But they know he knows where he's supposed to be. He knows where everybody on the field is supposed to be because he's a smart guy. And I think they like that. There's a level of comfort in knowing that worst case scenario, everybody's going to be lined up where they're supposed to be. There were times over the last 5 years, we couldn't even get guys lined up. They would snap the ball and 4 guys would be wide open. What the hell is this? How is this guy this wide open? We haven't seen many of those this year. We get down by the end zone and there's a guy just wide ass open for no reason. Haven't seen many of those, and I think it's because they trust John Bostic. So that's why I think they keep leaving him out there, even though they know there are some liabilities there with John Bostic. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Got another super chat here, and it's from my man, King of the North. Once again, double up, Thank you for doubling it up, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you. King of the North writes, in my opinion, this is a huge crossroads for the team. Coming off a historically bad game and going into New York, if the coaches don't get through to these guys this game, then the division is a pipe dream. Must-win game, ? I won't say must-win game. It feels like one, but I think it's a must-compete better game. Like, if we lose this game 31-17 and the Giants thoroughly dominate us, or it's one of those weird Ravens games where you're not out of it, but you're never totally in it either, and you ultimately lose by 2 touchdowns, that's when you start to say, okay, no. We're one of the worst teams in football. Like, it's not even close. Yeah, and all of you guys have been saying top 5 pick, spot on. We're going to be a top 5 draft pick team, for sure. That's what this game is for me. So from a huge crossroads in the season type of feel, absolutely this is a crossroads game. You bet your ass it is. Because if you don't perform this week against the Giants, and I get it, we're not much better than the Giants, which is my point. If we're not that much better, they're not much better than us. Either way you look at it, I don't give a shit if you look at it like the Giants are better. Well, guess what? They're not that much better than us. I don't care if you look at it like we're better. Well, we're not much better than them. Either way, that should make for a competitive game. And if somebody gets their ass whooped in this game, that means they're a lot further behind the curve than even they thought. You have no business getting your ass whooped by the Washington football team, the New York Giants, the New York Jets, or the Jacksonville Jaguars this season. You have no business getting your asses whooped. Now, you can lose to any of those teams. That's okay. You better not get your ass whooped, or that says a lot about your team. Because these teams right now, as constructed, aren't capable of blowing anybody out. Now, if they beat you, and they beat you by 4, or they beat you by 7, you get that. It happens. It's an NFL game. Shit happens. If they beat you by 17, you got problems. And that's what I'm saying. If we lose to the Giants 34-17, we lose to the Giants 31-14, we lose to the Giants 30-13, we got problems. We're really one of the worst teams in football because the Giants aren't that much better than us that they should be beating us by 2 scores or more. So to me, it's not necessarily must win because, hell, if you lose this game, guess what? You're 1-5. The Giants are 1-5. If Dallas loses on Monday night, they're 2-4. You're not out of it yet. So no, it's not a must-win game. Nobody's running away with this thing, I don't think. Now, if Dallas wins on Monday night and they get to 3-4 and you lose this game or they get to 3-3, and you lose this game and you're 1-5, now it's slipping through your fingers, and then the Dallas game becomes a must-win. Because if they go to 4-3 and you drop to 1-6 and they have a win over you, you're dead. That's when you can say, all right, division's a pipe dream. But if you lose this game, but you lose it competitively, let's say you lose on a last-second Rojas field goal, okay? Let's say he bangs one from 52 and they beat us 23-21. Then you say, shit, we let one slip through our fingers. That was a competitive game. We had opportunities, and we'll nitpick at things that we didn't do well and how we ended up losing the game. But at least you say to yourself, all right, we should have beat the Giants. We let that one slip through our fingers. Let's see if we can't rebound and get Dallas next week. And you really would like Dallas to lose in that instance because you didn't get it done. But if you go out and you destroy New York, that says that the Giants are a lot worse than people thought, number one. Number two, it says, hey, we got a shot in this thing. If we just beat them, I don't give a shit if it's 17-16. If we beat them, we got a shot in this thing. So it's a major game from that standpoint. And and to me, this is going to tell us a lot about our team. Because if we're competitive in this game, which we should be, which I fully expect us to be, then I know this team has a chance. If they win this game, which I feel like they have a legitimate shot at doing, I think this team, once again, has a chance. If they lose this game, depending on how they lose, that's going to start to shape the way that I view this team moving forward. Because the Giants aren't good. Let me reiterate this. Neither are we. But the Giants aren't good. There's a reason they're winless right now. So, anyway, I could have dropped the digress on you, but I didn't. I told you I'm cognizant of this stuff, man. So that's going to do it for the comment section right now. Let's just quickly get to in other news real fast before we glide to the side tonight. Ron, he stepped up to the podium and he talked about Dwayne. Again, you know, there are a couple of reporters that are just hell-bent on asking Dwayne Haskins questions. And at this point, I really could give two shits about Dwayne. I really could. Like this whole he's sick and not showing up for work shit, that was the last straw for me. That's so immature. Because he may be sick, but he could have brought his ass to work. Like, the way they phrased it, the way, and this is why when I say Rivera is talking too much, the way Rivera phrased it is like, hey, look, we didn't send him home. We gave him some medicine, and we made sure we tested him for COVID. He doesn't have it. And if he wanted to stay at the facility, he could have. That's how they phrased it. He went home on his own. They didn't come out and say it. Rivera didn't say it, but he literally walked all the way up to that ledge and then walked backwards. So essentially what he said was, yeah, look, he should be here, but he's not. That's his thing. That's his call, not mine. And it is what it is. At this point, I don't give a shit about Dwayne. He's not a part of this team's future. I've washed my hands clean. It's a shame because just 3 weeks ago, I was all in on Dwayne, give him 16 games. But I told you, when adversity hits, that's when you get the real character of a man. That's when you find out what somebody's really about. Not when shit is going good, all right? But when adversity hits, you see the true character of a man. And if this is how you're going to respond to being benched, whether fair or unfair, if this is how you're going to respond to being benched, you're not the man for the job anyway. You're not the man for the job. So I've washed my hands clean in that situation. I would prefer it if we just moved forward, talk about Kyle Allen, talk about the Giants, talk about this division. He talked about the defense, and he talked about, you know, one play here or there, things that are going wrong, yada, 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 yada. I was more anxious to hear from Scott Turner and from our new starting quarterback, Kyle Allen. Scott Turner said, so there were two really interesting tidbits that I got from him. One not as interesting as the other. The first thing was he told Kyle Allen, look, bro, you can't be doing that 3rd and 1 shit you did where you went helmet to helmet with Jalen Ramsey. That can't happen anymore. You know, situational awareness. That's the second quarter of an early ball game. Yes, 3rd and 1, you want to pick up the first down. I understand that. That's a 4th and 1 in the 4th quarter type of play you pulled there. Don't do that in the 2nd quarter. I get that. I understand that. The other thing that he said that struck me that I found really interesting was that he talked about wanting to get the football to running back Peyton Barber more in ball games. He feels like that's going to settle down the offense. Doesn't feel like they've done a good enough job of getting him the football and integrating him into this offense. So when I heard that, I said, I understand what you're saying, because he says, I want to run in between the tackles a little bit more. And he feels like Barber has a better feel for that at this point of his career than that of Antonio Gibson. And he's right. But Peyton Barber is much like Adrian Peterson in the sense that when he's in the game, I fully expect a run. And if he's not running the football, is he really a threat to catch it out of the backfield? Because they talked about his versatility when we got him, but I've heard nothing but drops from him in camp and things of that nature. I didn't see a guy early in the season when he got a couple of passes thrown his way in the Philadelphia game. He didn't catch the football. So I don't know if that versatility really exists. So do you really want the tell of, hey, Peyton Barber's in the game, we're going to run it? I don't know if that's what you really want. He also talked about getting the running backs more involved. Thought that was interesting as well. He said, look, I've got to do a better job. And he really summed it up. He said, I've got to do a better job of scheming guys open. Receivers got to do a better job of winning, because guys did not win in week 5 versus the Rams. They didn't. You know, a lot of guys were covered and smothered. Whether it was zone or man, they were covered. He said, and we've got to do a better job of executing. And he's right. Offensive line has to do a better job. Quarterback has to do a better job. Receivers have to do a better job. Tight ends have to do a better job. Running backs have to do a better job. He's right. So, my initial thoughts watching this game on the TV copy live was Scott Turner did an awful job. He did an awful job in this game. He wasn't good. This was probably my least favorite Scott Turner game. And he admitted that. He said, look, we weren't good enough in the second half. I was bad in the second half. I like the fact that he acknowledges that he has to be better. Some guys don't like to acknowledge the fact that they weren't good enough. It's easy to pass the buck. But he said, no. I wasn't good enough in the second half of that game. That wasn't good enough. I like Scott Turner, man. I know some of you are ready to get his head on a stick right now. Got your pitchforks and torches. You're ready to go after Scott Turner. Not me. I'm not a part of that crowd. I like Scott Turner. I think he's done some good things. Last week was not a good representation of who he's been this season. He wasn't good last week. He didn't do anybody any favors. He didn't put Alex in a good spot. It was a rough spot. He acknowledged the weather. It wasn't a good spot. Well, then if you acknowledge all these factors, the offensive line isn't good, and they're not getting it done, then you need to take matters into your own hands. And he didn't do that last week. He left his quarterback out to dry. And there were some opportunities for Alex Smith to do some other things with the football. I showed that on film. But for the most part, Scott Turner didn't help. And I like the fact that he acknowledges that. And he's going to be better. You got to understand, he's a young coordinator himself. This is his first time doing this full time. There are growing pains that come with that. Again, I liken it to you working at a job and you just starting out. Whatever you're doing right now, think back to when you first started. And you making mistakes and you having to learn on the fly. Shit happens. Same thing with being an offensive coordinator. It's no different. He's got to learn too. And then listening to Kyle Allen, I love this. Kyle Allen impressed me from his performance on Sunday, and I know some of you were not impressed. I was. He impressed me at the podium today because he stepped up to the mic and said, yeah, look, had a conversation with Scott about, not putting my body on the line and that sort of thing and having to be a little bit more situationally aware. I understand all of that. But I also understand, and I love this. I absolutely love this. Love it. He said, look, in today's NFL, this is a part of the game. You have to be mobile. You have to be able to extend, escape the pocket, use your legs. You have to be able to do this. This is not optional. This is mandatory in today's NFL. You have to do this. So I understand what Scott is saying, but at the same time, this is a part of my game. It's a part of my game for a reason, because it's something that you have to be able to do in this league. Translation, I'm not going to stop being me. I love it. Don't stop being you, because that's the reason I like you. I like you because you're willing to run when things break down. I watch games every week, every single one of them. I watched Ryan Tannehill yesterday against the Buffalo Bills. How many times did he use his legs? He ran for a touchdown. That's the X factor. It's the great equalizer. I'm watching Josh Allen. It's the 3rd and 9. He runs for 11. That's the great equalizer. Teams can't account for your usage of your legs. So if you stop using that, you become Dwayne Haskins, a sitting duck in the pocket. You have to be willing to put your body on the line. Now, there's a time when you slide. Yes, there is. There's a time when you slide and get your ass down and don't take a shot. Especially because we don't want to see Alex Smith's ass in a game ever again. However, I understand that, and he understands, more importantly, that you have to be able to use your legs to extend plays, to make things happen when things break down. And I like the fact that despite Scott Turner probably giving him a tongue lashing about putting his body in risk, and Scott Turner flat out called him selfish. He said, not only was it dangerous, it was selfish because you put yourself ahead of the team. I'm glad that he took all of that in and said, I still got to be me. I got to stay true to myself because that's what this team needs. And he's right. So Ron Rivera said the thing that he loves about Kyle Allen is that he loves ball. It's infectious. You see it. He's a guy that loves this game. He's mad when he doesn't execute, and he's hard on himself. And that kind of stuff resonates with the players. And when Kyle was asked about that, he said, yeah, look, when I wasn't starting, I did my best job to try and go and establish a relationship with all of the guys. You know, you want to establish that relationship with them, but you also need them to understand that you're willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win. And you're willing to put in the work. He said, I just love this game. I love football. I love hearing that. Because a wise man once told me, you gotta want guys that love ball. For too long, we've had guys that don't necessarily love ball. They love what ball can bring them in terms of the pay, like Josh Doxson. We got guys that love what football can bring for them and their families. They don't love the game itself, though. They don't love ball. That's a problem. So, I like Kyle Allen, man. I'm rooting for him. I really am. And I think he's the best quarterback in terms of giving us a chance to win. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with that, and that's fine. That's just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but that's how I feel. And I think you're going to see it this weekend. I really do. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Third time I used it. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. As we get out of here, I thank you guys for joining me tonight on the show. And look forward to chopping it up with you again tomorrow. No Thursday night game this week, as that has been postponed. Obviously pushed back, being that Buffalo played on Tuesday, and they were scheduled to be on Thursday night. So that game has been pushed to next Monday. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys, though, Thursday and Friday on this program as we head into our Giants week. Next episode, we will take our first look at the Giants. Friday, we will break them down, talk about keys to the game, and give our predictions as to what will transpire in a massive Week 6 showdown at the Meadowlands versus the New York Football Giants. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Also, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you subscribe to the LouieTeeNetwork for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Hit that like button on the way out. Also, don't forget about Patreon. That's available down in the description. You can find the link to my Patreon and become a patron. Also, don't forget about the Louie T Network merch. If you want to support breast cancer awareness, we've got Susan G. Komen merch available on the website on theprintchamps.com. So check that out. And you guys have asked for them. They're coming I've got hats coming here shortly, and I will keep you abreast of that situation when they are completed and up and on the site for your consumption. So just keep that in mind as well. But in the meantime, you guys enjoy the rest of your night. We will reconvene at another Kevin, you got me all messed up, man. Let me get out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you next time. I'm your man, Louie T, and this has been Washington Football Nightly Live. I'll see you next time. Take care.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's